Kaja Callis, the vice president of the union, seemed to take both Putin and Trump to task.
How do you evaluate Donald Trump's diplomatic efforts up until now?
Everybody welcomes the diplomatic efforts made by President Trump. It's just the problem is that Putin is mocking those attempts. Everybody else is welcoming because the Europeans want peace, Ukrainians want peace, and Americans want peace. Who doesn't want peace is Putin. So it takes at least two to want peace. It only takes one to want war. And as long as Russia still wants war, there's no peace.
Well, I mean, you can almost like flip her words around and say, yeah, if there's one who doesn't want peace, it's Volodymyr Zelensky. Russia does want peace. They have offered it repeatedly, and we have chosen not to. But it's not just him, of course. It's Kaja Callis, etc., because then she, again, reverts back to the screenwriter view of foreign policy and scripts out how she would like the world to be, which is that we seek peace and Russia doesn't seek peace. Of course, translated into normal English, into regular human being language, is that from a position of weakness and inferiority, we are demanding that the side that's the superior side militarily and diplomatically and industrially, we demand that they meet our terms, and they're not going to. But she said they're the only ones who don't want peace. No, they don't want peace on your terms. And they're only offering them on the positive terms. I mean, we're not even accepting peace terms when we're in the minority and in the inferior position. Imagine if we were in the position of superiority and the Russians had been demanding something, how much more we would mock them for having the audacity to suggest that. And yet, that is precisely what we're asking the Russians to do, something we would never do. And that's another consistent theme that we've been doing, which is why we're in this place in the first place. We're asking Russia to be okay with moving a military alliance directly up to their borders when not one country in the West would be okay if the reverse were happening. If Russia were moving a military alliance closer to the West, we would never tolerate, but we expect the Russians to. We expect the Russians from a position of strength to give in to our demands from a position of inferiority. It's never going to happen. You can write whatever script you want, but the minute that you put it on the ground in reality, it gets bloodied and burned up because it can't stop a bullet. A screenplay, you can hold it up in front of your chest, but that bullet's going to fly right through it as though it wasn't there. And that's what exactly is happening on the ground. And the Russians are just saying, you guys can keep going with your horror movie, as Putin put it, because that's what it's turning into for the Ukrainian people. Because this always comes back to, I say this so many times, it matters what you can do, and it matters what you can't do. And when spin comes into contact with reality, reality will impose itself over spin every time. It's done that throughout this whole episode, and it's happening right now as we speak. And as the longer the West and the Ukrainian side resist reality, acknowledging what's true and what's real on the battlefield, and the capacity and the potential for war-making capacity on the two sides, which is grotesquely out of balance in Russia's favor, the more horror we're going to see on the ground, the more Ukrainians are going to die, the more territory is going to be lost, the more cities are going to be destroyed. It's just, I mean, it's played out that way all the way through, and it's going to continue to play that way. And there is no prospect for it to be militarily reversed. And that point was underscored in Beijing earlier today when President Xi Jinping and President Vladimir Putin met together. And of course, this is on the heels of the SCO meeting that has happened. It's in the context of the expanding BRICS economic bloc. It's on top of them talking more and more about forming a new center of balance and a new center of power in global politics. And the center of gravity is moving in their direction. And our side, just like on the battlefield in Ukraine, is weakening because of our abject unwillingness to see reality. And I want you to show you what happened just earlier today in Beijing and what the two sides said together, and notice how they're focused not just on bilateral issues, but on international ones.
China-Russia relations have withstood the test of the international situation and serve as a model of interstate relations. Eternal good neighborliness, friendship, comprehensive strategic interaction, mutually beneficial cooperation, and win-win outcomes. In recent years, under our leadership, China and Russia, in the spirit of their original goals and with determination, have been achieving fruitful results in cooperation. We are ready, together with you, to continue supporting each other in national development and prosperity, to steadfastly defend international justice and equality, and to promote the formation of a more just and rational system of global governance. Our close communication reflects the strategic nature of Russia-China relations, which are at an unprecedentedly high level. This was fully demonstrated during your May visit to Russia and our joint participation in the celebration of the 85th anniversary of victory in the Great Patriotic War. Tomorrow in Beijing, large-scale solemn events will be held on the occasion of the 85th anniversary of the victory over Japan and the end of the Second World War, in which we will take part together. And you have just said that there might even be rain, but I am sure that this will not overshadow our festive mood. And the Chinese armed forces, with their customary brilliance, will carry out this festive, solemn event.
So you see, they're very festive. They're not worried. They're not thinking that they're losing a war. In fact, they're festive because they see that things are trending in their favor. They see that more and more people are looking to the east. They're not looking to the west. Our side is getting weaker. Their side is getting stronger. I showed you yesterday that video of Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, and Modi from India greeting like they were high school best friends, just all happy, holding hands, giving hugs, smiling like they were, almost like they were dating each other. I mean, it was really big stuff. Yeah, that's the one right there. You see, they're holding hands right there. Now they're going to come up here with, now they're meeting Xi Jinping, and there's warm handshakes and all this kind of stuff. That's why they're all happy, because they're seeing that their actions are succeeding. They're moving the needle in their direction, and the center of gravity in world politics and world economics is moving in their direction at their advantage. And the longer we keep going with this fiction that we're writing, and the more it runs into reality, both on the battlefield and in economics, the worse it's going to be for us. It can continue to get worse. And of course, the absolute worst is not just that they're economically in a better position than we are. We can probably survive that. The problem is, if we keep going down this path, we may end up having that self-fulfilling prophecy I mentioned earlier. We may end up being in a conflict with Russia. And because nuclear weapons are involved, United States, France, Great Britain, and then there's nuclear weapons on the Russian side. They don't need any from anyone else, but they also have North Korea on their side. They could potentially have China on their side, especially if this thing escalates and it becomes an interstate war. And if anybody uses nuclear weapons, then everything is on the table that could happen, everything bad. We should not even be toying with this. Just imagine, folks, imagine right now, you can suffer some embarrassment. And you can say, all right, this was stupid. We should never have done it. We had so many diplomatic off-ramps that would have been ended the war at a lot lower cost. And we foolishly went down that we just wrote a script and said, we don't care about reality. Reality imposed itself, smashed into us. And now we're in an even worse situation here. But it still is not unrecoverable for us. None of our troops have died. None of our militaries have been destroyed. None of our territory has been taken. None of our cities have been wiped out. So let's end the war here right now and start getting back to any kind of normalized relation. It's going to take a long time to get some of this healed, but we can get back to it right now, and we'll be in good shape. And then we can start maybe reversing some of this economic decline, because now then, not having to worry about supporting a foolish war, we can start doing some other things as well. We can start trying to outcompete China and Russia and giving people a reason to want to do business with us. That'd be really hard, but it is still possible. That's what we should do right now. That's what's the most rational and logical for our interest. The worst thing we can do, though, is to keep writing a damn script that's in contradiction to reality. Because taken far enough, we could end up in a war that we cannot win and could well lose. And again, God forbid if it should go nuclear, then everyone loses. And that would be the worst outcome for mankind. But that's where we're at, folks. That's the state of affairs here and what's at stake here. It's not just a matter of keeping face or whatever or looking tough. Those times are past. It's time to get into the brass tacks of reality before we really get into trouble. It's not too late. So we can still right this ship and do the right thing and get this war over with and get back to the business of trying to create prosperity for our populations and our various countries and not supporting war. That's where we are. Thanks for being with us today, folks. I really appreciate your time and your attention here. There's going to be a show this afternoon at 2 p.m. with author Peter Turchin, who wrote a book called The End Times, in which he's one of the guys that actually predicted political instability in the United States in 2020, and he did it, I think it was in 2010. So he really looked and read the tea leaves and has a lot of scientific information behind him, and he is even more concerned now about political instability in the United States than he was before. And so it's a legitimate question: is societal collapse looming for America? Are we still going down a path even worse than it was in 2020? We're going to have him on today, and he's going to give us his assessment of where the United States is and what we can do domestically to avoid that very bad outcome. Thanks very much, folks. We'll see you at 2 o'clock on the Daniel Davis Deep Dive.